So we've got a wonderful guest here today with us who's going to give us information that I think you'll find very useful. And I'm going to have him introduce himself to you.
Hello, my name is Philip Daniels, and I'm a PhD candidate from the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida.
How far into your...
So I am actually currently writing my chapters 4 and 5, so I have all my data, and I intend to graduate in May, so Lord willing, I will be out. I don't want to say I may go into the summer, but you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, so I'll be gentle on myself. Yes.
So yesterday he presented a wonderful program at the IAMFC conference, and I'd like for him to just give us a few pointers about if you could just tell us the topic, yes, and then tell us a little bit about what you spoke about yesterday. That would be really wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
so basically talking about LGBT aging with elder populations, both in caregiving, so the caregiver and the care receiver per se, and looking at some of the unique similarities and the differences, and looking about how we can build our competencies as counselors, as well as our own awareness, biases, where we need to grow, what we want to. I think one of the biggest things was that curiosity aspect of really embracing and giving the power back to the client to find out how I can build rapport with them, learn from them, and then also the big piece of advocating for them and then helping them advocate for themselves.
You mentioned a few unique points about persons who are LGBTQ caregivers, that they may experience some different things.
Yes.
So would you mind talking for just a moment about those things?
Absolutely. So one of the articles that I was sharing, it had 6 themes that were specific, that going between those similarities and differences, and some of the unique components were the assumption that all of the caregiving responsibility would be placed on the LGBTQ individual because of this notion that they don't have the traditional family, or they're single,
right.
And so that was one key. The other one was looking at the unique aspect and the dynamics that come into play that you may be then transitioning to be the caregiver of the person who could have discriminated, condemned, and this one I think is looking at the parent, kind of thing, and generationally.
So that parent may have been the one who they really had major conflicts with.
Yes.
And now they're called to be the primary caregiver.
Absolutely. So then unpacking some of those, maybe the unsaids, unspokens of how is this how that may also not re-traumatize, but that could re-traumatize and put some extra stressors on, in addition to just the stresses of caregiving.
Yes.
Other things we're looking at how some caregivers were having to be forced out or forced in on different circumstances and experiences. Basically, with that situation of having to out themselves for the purposes of either medical information or to be the caregiver, sometimes not being respected as real family. That was one of the other aspects. And I think also for employees and organizations looking into long-term care facilities and nursing homes, and the discrimination that happens not only between the staff but also between the residents and themselves, resulting into going back into the closet. And also just there's violence that comes from that as well, that substantiates also the fear of even wanting to go into a nursing home or a care facility. And so again, this transfers both the caregiver and the care receiver. So that was kind of the other component of it. The other notions we're looking at, I think, the identities and the terms that are unique to the community that generationally may have changed, that I think queer we were talking about.
Yes, we did.
At one point, this was a derogatory term in the 60s in the Stonewall, they reclaimed it. So yet, you're dealing with the 3 generations of the oldest of the old, which was the invisible and the silent. That was, you just had to keep it down. And then looking for the generation in the middle between the baby boomers. They were kind of the coming out phase, and then now we have the baby boomers they're out, they're proud, and here it's moving forward.
And very different cultures in that strata,
absolutely,
those age groups. You also mentioned about the importance of advanced directives, and I know you're
Absolutely.
passionate about this. This is one of
Oh,
your
yes.
areas of research. So my thought is, I was listening to you yesterday, and I shared this with you after the meeting, was that we talk about beneficence in ethics and doing the right thing with clients. And sometimes we're kind of at a loss as to what doing the next right thing might be. This is a perfect example of doing the next right thing, helping the couple to, whatever their orientation, whether their sexual orientation is, to know the importance of advanced directives.
Absolutely. So this is that case that kind of
So
transcends.
some education there.
It's education, psychoeducation, but also it's kind of interdisciplinary in the sense of how we can, because we're not lawyers,
Right.
we're not medical doctors.
Right.
However, there are certain points of contact in the communication that's key. That how we can
Right.
actually initiate these conversations and talk about these tough decisions that sometimes admittedly so, it's scary, and the fear that's with that existential piece of death, that's the reality.
Right.
We are in a death avoidance society. I mean, even in the terminology that we use, they passed away, they died. And that's, so to be sensitive in that fact, but looking how can we plan together so that when that happens with the family unit, that the death at some point,
Yes.
what can we do preventively to prepare for that?
And it takes a different level of legal protection many times for clients who are in same-gender relationships because, and you were talking about this yesterday, that it may be that you have the death of one spouse or one partner, and then, and I'm just making this up now, but then the little brother from 15 years ago that they haven't seen suddenly shows up, and that's the familial relationship.
Yes.
And so then all of a sudden you have this situation
That,
that
yes.
things are not covered. And so where would we go for more information about how to develop wills, how to develop advanced directives? Can you direct us in those?
Absolutely.
Some areas there.
So there are some good resources online that we can look for and seek out. So there's 5 Wishes is a wonderful conversation starter, and it literally is looking at your 5 wishes of who do I wish to take care of certain aspects, health, finances, legal. What do I wish that my family knows? What do I wish that I want my family to do to me? Do I want, and it goes down to the little tiny things. Do I want to listen to music when I can't actually articulate what I want? Do I want to be read to? I mean,
wow.
so it's not only just the medical type of stuff, it's also
It's
the
those things we
very,
don't think about.
it's the values that go into it, it's and taking into account culture and religion and everything else in play. So 5 Wishes is a good resource.
Excellent.
Prepare. You can literally Google prepare for your care, and that
Prepare for your care, is that a website?
that is a website that we can go on,
Prepare for your care.
and that is a really neat one that you can also use in groups as well. So they have movies that you can watch, they have forums that you can go out to really guide the conversation, and maybe some of the things that you didn't think about, or even to gather more information about the specifics, coming down to if I'm brain dead compared to if I'm
Right.
heart dead versus if I'm lung dead. You see, there are these differences. And there's one more called Go Wish. That was an interesting I found. Go Wish.
Wish.
That's like Go Fish.
Go Wish.
And it's you can use it for children as well, because that's a very sensitive subject when it comes to the parents having to encounter the reality that maybe their child is dying. But that's thinking about the children, with cancer and stuff like this. However, we never know what's going to happen. So
And you said yesterday, you were talking about that any of us could step off the curb. And I have to tell you, walking over here this morning, we're in New Orleans, I was crossing Canal Street. Those streetcars are silent.
I'm telling you.
And I looked up and there was a streetcar in my face. And I thought, oh Lord, it was what you were talking about. It can just happen so quickly.
Yes.
So these things are all things that we need to be prepared for. And I will say too that in our ethics code that we do, it's part of the IAMFC ethics code, we say that you have to have disposition for your records as counselors. So we carry that even a step further as far as our professional duties.
that's something, absolutely, and that's an unspoken area as well, that even in our informed consent, what do we as professionals and practitioners, do we even have a statement or a clause in there in the event of my death?
Right, right.
Who's going to carry on my practice? Who's going to take my notes, if that even is a choice? You see, so that's something that...
And we put that in as a mandate because it's very important that we have those contingencies.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for talking to us today.
I appreciate it.
And would you mind giving us contact information that we can share with our readers?
I can. Was it give that here? Or,
if you just would say your email, your preferred email, maybe, that they can contact you for more information.
Absolutely. So again, Philip Daniels, and my email, I'll give you my Gmail, so that would be transcending across. It's pfdcounselor@gmail.com. So P is in Philip, F is in Franklin, and D is in Daniels, and counselor at gmail.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.